Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing my October wrap up. I read 11 books in October, which that's a pretty good amount. I honestly didn't expect to read that much just because I had so much going on this month. Like I got married, we went on my honeymoon. But anyway, so we're gonna go through all of the books that we read in October, starting with Soulsearching by Lila Sage. This is her newest release. It starts a new series for her that takes place in Sweetwater Peak. It's in the same universe as her Rebel Blue Ranch series. And this one is a paranormal romance. But I don't know if I would describe it as paranormal romance, but the town is like paranormal. So our main character, Collins, she comes back to her hometown in Sweetwater Peak. She's kind of been in a rut with her career. She's a photographer and she hasn't been able to photograph what she wants, if that makes sense. Like the jobs that she was doing just weren't fulfilling her and she wants to kind of like go back to the type of photography that she used to. Anyway, she's in a slump, but she has to go back home to help out with her parents' antique store. There's like this business that's trying to buy out like all of the small businesses in this town to develop them into like condos and just all that kind of stuff. So they're trying to help their parents save their store. And while she's here, she stays with Brady Cooper, who does like upholstery type stuff. He has his own store where he does upholstery and stuff, and he lets her stay with him because his store came with like an apartment above it. He had an extra room for her, so he lets her stay there. And the thing about Collins is that she can see ghosts, but she's also hasn't been able to communicate or see them for a while, so she thinks that she's losing her powers. One of her motives for coming back to Sweetwater Peak is also to hopefully reconnect with that side of herself that can communicate or see, ghosts and like the paranormal, all that stuff. So I really liked this one. It's definitely a slow burn, which I think Lila Sage, a lot of her books are a slow burn, but I enjoyed it. I don't know, I feel like I don't have anything like crazy to say. It didn't feel very like paranormal, just because you don't really like, she's not actually like sitting there communicating. It's not scary. That's just kind of like a subplot in this, is that she can see and communicate with ghosts. So, but it was a great read, I think, for October, like the spooky season, just for something that's a little bit different. And I can't wait to read the rest of the books in this series. And I gave this one a 4-star. Next, I read If It Makes You Happy by Julia Olivia. This is the perfect fall book. It's Gilmore Girls in book form. This is also pretty long, but this takes place in a very cozy small town in Vermont. In the late 1990s, so literally Gilmore Girls. So the main character, Michelle, she lives in Seattle, but her mom recently died, so she has to go to Vermont to take over and run the small bread and breakfast that her mom owned. Her younger sister is set to take over it, but she has to finish getting her degree first, and she has one more semester left, so Michelle agrees to run the inn until her sister graduates. So while she's there, she's kind of like, she's a big city girl. She isn't really into the small town setting. She wants, she misses like the busyness of a city. And her next door neighbor is Cliff, who is a single dad. Okay, he has 2 daughters. He is a baker. He owns a little bakery in town, and he is like set on becoming friends with Michelle and like introducing her to the town and getting her acquainted with it. And this literally so good. Usually books like this you just read for the cozy vibes and not much of a plot, or you're not really invested in the plot or the characters that much. But this one, like, it has the cozy vibes for fall, but it went like a touch further with the emotional aspect. Like, I was really rooting for these 2 characters, and like I cared about what was going on, and it didn't feel too long. Like, I was just enjoying I was just enjoying the story. So if you want a perfect cozy fall read, I think you could still read it now. November is still a good time to read this. So if you want the perfect cozy fall read that gives Gilmore Girl vibes, check out If It Makes You Happy. I gave this one a 4-star as well. Next, I read The Summer We Ran by Audrey Ingram. I meant to read this over the summer because it says The Summer We Ran, but I didn't get to it, so I finally got to it this month, and I was really excited to read this one because it's a second chance romance. Actually they say I thought it was a second chance romance, and it is told between two, it has dual timelines, so it goes back and forth between the summer of 1996 and then the present day, and it follows Tess Murphy, and her mom, like, growing up she didn't come from a lot. Her mom, like, had to work crazy jobs, and she meets Grant that summer, and they have, like, this huge summer romance. And then in present time, you know that they aren't together. You know that something big happened to them, and they happen to be running against each other for governor of Virginia. They don't want their past to interfere with their campaign and their election, so they're trying to pretend like they just don't know each other. And you know something bad went down back when they were teenagers, when they met and had this big huge romance. But you don't know what it is yet, and you're getting like pieces of it. And let me tell you, I was kind of like, I got like halfway and I still didn't know like what was happening. Like I wanted to know what caused them to break up, and it was crazy, honestly. It's got a little bit of miscommunication in it, but also like an outside force that kind of broke them apart. And then in the end, like I said, I was under the impression, I don't know why, that it was a second chance romance. The ending just left me like very unsatisfied. Find out what happened back in the day. They communicate. They finally talk about what happened back in that summer and realize that, you know, they should have communicated better. This person, like this force that forced them apart, like was kind of like the whole reason that they broke up. But then I feel like that was like right at the end, and there's just like no satisfying conclusion. I wouldn't go into this expecting a second chance romance or like a happy ending, is what I'm going to say. But I gave this one a 3-star. Next, I read Play Nice by Rachel Harrison. This is a horror book, I think. I'm not even really sure. It's about this main girl named, what was her name? Cleo. She grew up in a haunted house. Okay, this haunted house. With her mom. People thought her mom was kind of crazy. Her parents were divorced, and she has 2 older sisters. She lived in this haunted house with her mom, and now she's an adult. They don't have a great relationship with their mom, and now she's an adult, and her mom passes away, and the house is left to the 3 daughters, and she decides to take on the project of cleaning up the house to get it to sell because her mom never sold it, even though she didn't live there anymore, and you don't know why. Her mom believed that this house was possessed by a demon, and everyone thought she was kind of crazy, especially like her sisters and the dad, and they wanted nothing to do with her in that aspect. So Cleo comes back to this house. She's going through it. She's remembering some things from her childhood that she kind of like suppressed, and it turns out that the mother was right. There is a demon that lives in this house, and you're just basically finding out what went down like when she was a child with this demon, and the things that people thought the mom was like making up. She's realizing that like, no, I remember this happening. And I thought that the whole point of this book was to like, she's gonna try and get rid of this demon. I feel like there was no conclusion. Like, it was just very unsatisfying. If you want like a good like little paranormal horror type book for the spooky season, this one I think was good. It's not like anything that I've read before, which I enjoyed. It just felt like the ending was very unsatisfying. I'm just gonna leave it at that. But I did give this one a 3-star. Next, I read Casket Case by Lauren Evans. This one's also pretty good for spooky season. I wanted to read this one because it takes place in Alabama. I'm from Alabama, so I thought that was really cool. But this one is about Nora, who lives in Rabbit Town, Alabama, and her parents passed away, so she's running their casket business in her hometown. She's okay doing that. Like, she doesn't want to lose her family's business, so she's kind of like given up on like her personal life and like her dreams just to continue her family's business because she doesn't really want to sell it. And then she meets a new guy in town. His name's Garrett, and he shows up to town. He asks her out, and then all these people suddenly start dying in her town, and Garrett is always at the scene of those deaths, or like somehow related to those. So she's like, okay, who is this man? Because they already, like, by halfway point, they're like together. Like, it's pretty insta-lovey, which I didn't really like that aspect because I feel like you didn't really get to know either of the characters separately before they got together. Like, they just like immediately was like, let's date, you know? So they're already together, and that's when she's realizing, like, why is he at these scenes? Like, why is he always related to these deaths that are happening? This wasn't happening before he came to town. And then she finally is like, what are you? He's like, I'm a logistics coordinator for death. He gets an assignment of a person that's going to die. He goes to them, explains what's going to happen, and is there while they pass. So that's why he's been at all of these deaths in the town. And she believes him, but she's like, I can't comprehend this right now, or like I need time to think. So like the third act breakup happens. They get together very fast, and then third act breakup happens really fast. And then this whole book, like, I feel like not until like the very end is when she's like, okay, I don't care what your job is. I want to date you. So I was just like he kind of just like disappears in the last half of the book, and it's just Nora like contemplating on whether she wants to be with him based off his job now. So I do think it could have been a little bit shorter just because of that. But all in all, I think it was a good spooky romance. I think it was like a very different type of spooky read for October. So if you're looking for something different that's not like witches or vampires, then I would definitely pick up this one. And I gave this one a 3-star. Next, I read The Wedding People, which I have been wanting to read for so long. This one follows the main character, Phoebe. She is showing up to this very nice, very luxurious hotel in Rhode Island, and you don't know much about her. You know that she's like recently divorced and has been struggling just mentally, living by herself and just with her job and stuff, and just her life in general. She turns up to this hotel. There's a big wedding party that's shown up at the same time. So there's this huge wedding happening. I can't say why she comes to this hotel because I feel like it's not explained in the blurb why she's there, like her plan, like why she decided to come to this hotel, so I'm not going to tell you. But she meets the bride of this wedding, and she's kind of like stuck being her friend, honestly. Like, she doesn't really want to talk to the bride, but the bride's like very energetic and like, she's like, you're here for the wedding? And she's like, no, I don't know you. And she's like, well, you're here for the wedding now. Like, I'm going to drag you to all of our activities. So that kind of like hinders Phoebe's plan. And Phoebe just has like a bunch of different, like, I don't want to say epiphanies, but like, I feel like she definitely grows as a person. In like during this week, she's following this wedding party around, and there's like a slight little romance in here. It was just very interesting. I really enjoyed this book. It made me feel like very like, at the end, I kind of just felt like I was very happy for Phoebe. I'll just say that. And I gave this one a 4-star. Next, I read Ghost Business by Jen DeLuca. This one was really interesting because it follows 2 ghost tours, like rivalry ghost tours. And so basically our female main character, Sophie, she lives in Boneyard, Florida. It's a very small town, spooky town in Florida, and she has her own little side business of running ghost tours. And then enters Tristan, expanding his ghost tours. Like, he has them in different cities around the country. He does his research, and he couldn't find a ghost tour in Boneyard, Florida, and then he runs into Sophie, and she says she runs ghost yards. They have like a really good meet cute, and he's like, oh crap. He has like a deadline to make a profit with his company, so he needs to continue his plan on doing this ghost tour here. So him and Sophie kind of become enemies in this, and you know, Boneyard, Florida, Sophie's like telling like the real stories of like the ghosts and stuff, because it is actually a paranormal town, and Tristan's just telling made up stories. Have a deal that either whoever has the most ticket sales, gets to stay, and the other one has to shut down their business. So throughout it, they're obviously enemies, but then they have this connection from when they first met, obviously, and they can't keep denying it. So they kind of just still run their ghost tours, and yeah, a little romance comes out of it, and a solution to the 2 ghost tours. I thought this was just really fun, honestly, and also another different kind of spooky read for the spooky season, and I gave this one a 4-star. Next, I read Enchantra by Kaylee Smith. This is the second book in, I don't know what this series is called, but it's the second book after Phantasma. I read Phantasma last October, and it's like the perfect gothic paranormal read. You just have to read it. It's so good. They both are like really high stakes, deadly games, and I just love that for the spooky season. This one follows Genevieve, who is the sister of the main character from Phantasma, and she's trying to figure out more about like her own powers and like where her mother came from, and just trying to figure out more about herself, basically. And so she has a letter that from a friend of her mother's that she thinks could help her. So she goes, and it's in Italy, so she goes there to this manor, and she ends up basically showing up at the wrong time, like basically bad timing, because there's this deadly game going on that's about to start, which is Enchantra. So whoever steps into the mansion has to play it, and it's between this man and his 5 kids, I think, and they're all wraths, so they're cursed to play this deadly game every year, and whoever wins, they're basically killing each other in each round of this thing, and whoever wins Enchantra gets a year of freedom, I think, to leave like hell and do whatever they want. They don't have to serve this other demon that's cursed them to this. And when Genevieve shows up, she is forced to play, but the only way that she can play without this ruling demon killing her immediately is to marry one of the siblings. So she marries Rowan, and they play this game together, and he is like very protective of her. Even though it's a fake marriage, he's like, touch her and you die. And I was eating that up, honestly. I just love the deadly games. I don't know what it is. So then the ending, honestly though, was crazy. It was so good. I gave this one a 4.5 maybe. I liked it just as much as Phantasma, I think. I gave Phantasma a 4.5 also. These are just great gothic fantasies, and I loved it. The next book I read is Before We Were Strangers by Renee Carlino. I didn't really go into this with any expectations. I've had this on my TBR for so long, and I've been wanting to read it in the fall time, and I finally got to it. It's a very short book. It's like barely over 300 pages, I think. Yeah. Anyway, this is a second chance romance, and like I said earlier, I eat up second chance romances. They're my favorite trope, I think. So I thought that, I was sure that I was gonna like this. Not only did I like this, I loved it. I ate it up. I devoured it in one sitting. I could not put it down. It was so good. We found our first 5-star since June. I am so happy I read this. This follows Matt and Gracie. They meet when moving into their NYU dorm, and they have this like instant connection. He's like very enamored by her, and they just become instant friends, and they're basically becoming more than friends without really realizing it, and deciding, hey, like maybe we should date, because we're already doing those things. So they have this like amazing romance while they're in college, and then he ends up having an internship with National Geographic. He's a photographer, so he has to leave for the summer, and they make these promises he's gonna come back for her, and then there's definitely some miscommunication going on, and another outside force that forces this miscommunication, and they don't see each other for 15 years. Like, 15 years goes by, and he's catching the F train, and he sees her getting on the train, and they're like, is that Gracie? And she's like, Matt? But she's already on the train, so she's gone. So there's this thing called misconnections, I think, kind of like Craigslist, where you put out an ad, but like if you saw somebody but didn't get to like speak to them or get their number, you can like write on there and hope that they see it. So he does. He writes this letter to her and addresses it to the green-eyed lovebird, and that means something. You don't find out until later, like, what that means. Like, so she would know. She would know who wrote it. He's basically asking her, like, do you want to get a drink? So they catch up. So, like, that's how it starts, is him seeing her on the train. And then you get the middle part is their romance in college, like, how they met, like, what happens throughout their college year that they spend together, and then up until, like, he goes on his internship. And then you get Matt and Gracie's point of view. The last third of it is Gracie's point of view, and finding out the things that happened to her, like, in the past 15 years, and, like, what happened, you know, in her point of view when Matt went away on the internship when they were in college. Insane. I loved this book so much. 5 stars. Okay, then we read Mate by Allie Hazelwood. This is the second book after Bride. So this one follows the friend of Misery from Bride, which is Serena. She is a human hybrid. She's half human, half werewolf. And so basically being a hybrid, she kind of has a target on her back where, you know, other werewolves don't want her associated with her. Vampires are threatened by her and her existence. So she has this huge target on her back. She's in danger. And the only thing really that can protect her is Cohen, Alexander, okay? And it turns out he's her mate. Basically, yeah, he's the alpha of his pack of the Northwest Territory, and he's not gonna let anything happen to her. He's so protective. He's like, no, she's my mate. You do not touch her. And I was like, okay. Really, just every time Allie Hazelwood comes out with a book like this, I just am so shocked with the content that she has me reading, but I eat it up every time. Like, any other author putting this out, or if I just saw this and it wasn't Allie Hazelwood, I honestly probably wouldn't pick it up, or like, it would take me a long time maybe to want to read it, but Allie Hazelwood really has me reading anything, and I love that. I love that. So Serena has to stay with Cohen. She doesn't say much on the back about what happens between them, and like some of the internal things that Serena is going through, but if you love the touch her and you die trope, then you will like this, because Cohen is very protective of her. I mean, that's his instinct. She's his mate, but still, I ate that up. I haven't felt the need to annotate a book for a while, and this one had me pulling out my tabs. So the chapter titles also are like Cohen's thoughts, and I eat it up. I was eating them up, honestly. So like chapter 1, it says, they look like this, like just like a little quote underneath the chapter, and it says, she tore him apart and remade him. It took her less than a second. Because you don't get his point of view in this, but the fact that the chapter titles are his thoughts about Serena, I'm just literally dying reading them. This one says, look at her. Just look at her. Like, are you serious? Anyway, I gave this one a 4.5. I really love this one. Allie Hazelwood, please come out with more books like this, because I'm enjoying them, obviously. I'll read anything that you write. And then the last book that we read in October was Rewitched by Lucy Jane Wood. This took me a long time to get through, honestly, and I couldn't really tell you much of a plot. Like, basically, it's just a cozy, witchy book, honestly. Not much plot happens, but it's about Belladonna Blackthorn, who is a witch, but she kind of like suppresses her magic and doesn't use it in the way that like most witches do in her world. And so on her 30th birthday, I think all witches have to do this, she gets a summon from her coven that she has to go through a trial that will test her worthiness as a witch. But she doesn't practice witchcraft. Like, she does like little spells, obviously, but she's not like, hasn't been using it like that for her whole life. So she has to go through a bunch of training, and she kind of has like a guardian. I don't know why she has a guardian, but he's assigned to her to protect her and stuff. I'm not really sure why. I don't really remember, but it's basically just her like trying to perfect her magic, I guess. And I think I like ended up skimming like the last half of it. Like, it was intriguing up until a point, and then I was just like, nothing is happening, nothing's interesting. I don't care about Belladonna. I don't even care about the romance, honestly. And normally I love a romance where like he has to protect her. As you can tell from the other books that I read this month that I loved, this one I was just like, I don't care. But if you want a cozy witchy book that's not much plot, kind of just the characters and kind of like quirky characters, then you would probably enjoy this one. But it just wasn't for me, and I gave this one a 2-star. Okay, so those were all the books that I read in October. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. If you haven't already, please subscribe, like this video, comment down below, and hopefully I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye!